So this weekend I went to see Evil Dead Burn, and it's a pretty well-made movie. The special effects are good, the photography is good. Like it's a really nice looking movie. It's well cast. I like the actors. But as I was walking out of the theater, the thought that kept coming to my head was, what was the point of this movie? Or really of any of this new series of Evil Dead movies that they've made recently? Because for all of its technical proficiency, this movie seems to have no idea what it is that made Evil Dead special in the first place. What really made the original Evil Dead films stand out was the tone, which was basically, what if we made a hardcore, super bloody horror movie that is also a slapstick comedy? And they had the perfect person to build that around in Bruce Campbell as Ash Williams, who's basically a cartoon character, and you can smash him over the head with frying pans or have him beat himself up with his own possessed hand. And it doesn't kill him, it just pisses him off. And that's what was fun about those movies. It was watching this slapstick character in a horror world. But these new movies don't have any of that Three Stooges, Looney Tunes energy to them. They're done as straight horror movies, so their only real connection to the original films is the mythology. And the mythology of Evil Dead is basically just, there's the Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead. And if you read the wrong passage from the Book of the Dead, it will summon these demonic spirits that will come and start possessing everybody, and will then murder everyone in sight in really elaborate and gruesome ways. Now, Evil Dead Burn does draw a lot of imagery from the original films. So it opens up just like Evil Dead 2, with this guy named Joseph in a cabin-like environment that turns out to be an attic, listening to a reel-to-reel tape recorder with this guy talking about the Necronomicon. And the guy on the tape turns out to be his grandfather, who's now dead, but spent his life studying the Necronomicon and collecting artifacts related to it. And by pulling out all these artifacts, Joseph has inadvertently wakened the spirits of the evil dead. And somewhere in this house is a weapon that his grandfather has hidden, which is the only thing that can destroy them. So that's what the story is about. These evil spirits descending on his family to retrieve the weapon. And there's other stuff in the movie that is drawn from the original films. Like we get a version of the shaky cam POV shot of the evil spirits rushing through the woods towards the house. And some of the visual language of the film is also very Sam Raimi-esque. So there's one scene where the family's having dinner and the mom goes into the kitchen and pulls a rack out of the dishwasher. And in this rack are all of these very sharp knives and forks pointed upwards. And the camera lingers on it as if to say, gee, it would really suck if someone were to get impaled on this, wouldn't it? And it's almost like setting up a joke where you're now anticipating when that's going to happen. And that is a very Sam Raimi-esque move. Another thing the movie basically gets right is the portrayal of the Deadites. So the Deadites are just the people who have been possessed by these evil spirits. And the thing with Deadites is they're basically just dicks, but they're very sassy dicks. You can tell that they really enjoy their work. Like the Glassdoor report on being a Deadite is very high career satisfaction. And what the Deadites really like to do is fuck with the living by using the memories of the people that they've possessed to torment their loved ones. So in this movie, you've got Joseph's girlfriend, Thea, who is the classic sort of person who gets turned into a Deadite in an Evil Dead movie. She's very pretty and very sweet, and she is gruesomely murdered. And then, when she comes back as a Deadite, she takes this gleeful delight in taunting him using intimate details from their relationship. And then she starts making out with him with all this blood and bodily fluids coming out of her mouth. Like, this is classic Evil Dead stuff. And in the original Evil Dead, you have the perfect person to go up against the Deadites in Ash. Because Ash is also kind of a dick. And he's an idiot. But he's a very tenacious idiot. And the fun of it is watching him get more and more crazed and maniacal, trying to figure out how to get back at these things, even to the point of chopping off his own hand when it becomes possessed. But these new Evil Dead movies don't even try to have an Ash-like figure at their center. For some reason, they've decided that the main character should be someone who's dealing with some kind of personal trauma. So in this one, it's Alice, who is married to Joseph's brother, Will. In the first 20 minutes of the film, we find out that Will is an awful husband. He's controlling and demeaning and condescending and just basically an asshole. So at the beginning of the movie, this is Alice's problem. She is trapped in this terrible marriage. But then a few minutes later, Will is killed in a car crash, which unbeknownst to everybody else was caused by one of the Deadites. So then Alice has a new problem. which is that she's expected to be the grieving widow of a man that she no longer loves, and she's trapped in this house with his parents, who she knows never really liked her to begin with and really don't like her now. And so for the first part of the movie, this is what her character is. She's besieged and beaten down and just generally kind of dour. And of course, this is setting up a character arc where she will have to learn how to overcome this in order to save herself. And there's a moment getting into the third act where it seems like maybe they're going to completely change gears and let her really cut loose in a kind of gonzo Ash Williams way. So throughout the film, there's this sort of industrial weed whacker with like a rotary saw at the end that a number of characters have tried to use as a weapon, but they can't get it to work. So there's this quick montage of her grabbing this weed whacker thing and fixing it up and filling it with gasoline and getting it to work. And this very consciously echoes the montage in Evil Dead 2, where Ash builds his chainsaw hand. And at the end of it, the camera even pushes in on her as if she's going to say the signature Ash Williams line, groovy. But she doesn't say it because the story that this movie wants to tell is about an abused woman finally learning to stand up for herself. And that's not a fun story. But in this movie, it's also not a compelling story because none of the characters are well developed enough for it to have any kind of weight to it. And having spent a lot of this summer thinking about Obsession, it's almost impossible not to compare the two movies because Obsession is also about an abusive relationship. And think about all of the arguments and debates that that movie has sparked. Because in Obsession, those themes are central to the story. They're what the story is about. But in Evil Dead Burn, it's just a kind of trauma seasoning that's been sprinkled over the plot to try and make it seem deeper. So nobody's going to have any debates about the themes of Evil Dead Burn because there's nothing to talk about. It's just basically bad people are bad and good people should get away from them, and that's it. I say that I don't know what the point of this movie was, but of course I do know. It's a known brand name that people will show up for. I showed up for it. The theater was relatively full. And if you make it cheaply enough, you can make a little bit of money off of it. But what I don't get is saying, okay, we've got this group of beloved cult films that we're going to make a bunch of sequels to, but we're going to make them without doing any of the things that are why anybody remembers them in the first place. And they're getting good directors to make them. The guy who did this one, Sebastian Vanecek, obviously put a lot of craft and thought into making it. There's one shot near the end that really stuck with me. The camera's down on the ground and it's upside down, and Alice is crawling towards us with the house engulfed in flames in the background, and she's being pursued by the deadite version of her dead husband, Will. And then the camera slowly twists around to the correct orientation. It's really cool, but it's all done in service of this totally forgettable movie. If this were still the cable days and I turned on Cinemax one day and this was playing, I'd probably watch it, but I can't imagine ever making a point to see it again. Like, even if I was on Netflix and I came across it, I just can't see myself ever saying, oh, Evil Dead Burn, I want to see that again. And the thing is, I bet there's other stuff that this director would like to do. And if there's ever been a moment to just throw a talented director a couple $1 million and see what he comes up with, it's right now, when we keep getting more evidence that people are getting tired of the stuff that the studios have been putting out for the last couple of decades, and they're getting excited by new stuff. And I say that people will show up for this movie, but it's opened a lot softer than they thought it was going to. So maybe that'll give someone a clue. But anyway, what do you think? Did you see it? Did you like it? Am I wrong? Did you like the original Evil Deads? Have you even seen them? Jump in the comments. Let me know what you think. I'll catch you here next time.